I'm Sarah Mitchell, 32 years old, an emergency room nurse and a single mother to the most amazing little boy you'll ever meet. 3 weeks ago, at my sister's wedding reception, something happened that I'll never forget. Picture this: 200 elegantly dressed guests, crystal chandeliers glinting overhead, champagne flowing like water. Then my sister grabbed the microphone. "My sister is a single mother," she announced, her voice carrying across that massive ballroom. Unwanted by anyone. The room erupted in laughter. Actual laughter. 200 people finding humor in my pain. But wait, it gets worse. My mother, sitting at her front row table in her designer gown, decided to add her own contribution. "She's damaged goods," she called out, loud enough for everyone to hear. My father? He covered his mouth, but I could see his shoulders shaking. He was laughing too. And there I was, sitting at table 23 in the far corner, near the kitchen doors, with my 5-year-old son Lucas clutching my hand. His little fingers tightened around mine as his eyes went wide with confusion. "Mommy," he whispered, his voice so small and scared. "Why is everyone laughing at you?" I couldn't answer him. My throat had closed completely. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't move. Couldn't do anything except sit there while my entire family turned me into entertainment. But there was one person in that room who didn't laugh. One person who saw what was really happening. And what he did next. God, what he did next changed absolutely everything. Please subscribe and like this video and listen to my story till the end and let me know which city you're listening from. That way, I can see how far my story has traveled. Now, to understand how things spiraled to that moment of complete humiliation, I need to take you back to the beginning. Back to where it all started. Growing up in our beautiful 5-bedroom house in Westport, Connecticut, I learned something very early on. There were two kinds of daughters in the Mitchell household. The golden child and the invisible one. Emma was the golden child. For years younger than me, blonde like our mother, with this effortless charm that made teachers overlook missed homework and boys forget their own names. From the moment she took her first steps, she was Daddy's little princess and Mommy's perfect replica. Me? I was the responsible one. Which in Mitchell family language meant I was the daughter who didn't need attention because I could handle everything myself. I was capable. Self-sufficient. Boring. When prom season arrived, Emma got a $600 designer gown. Pale pink, hand-beaded, the kind that made other girls stop and stare when she walked into a room. It was stunning. She was stunning in it. When my prom came around 2 years earlier, my mother barely looked up from her magazine. "Sarah, you don't need all that fuss. You're more the practical type. It suits you better." I wore a dress from the clearance section at a department store. $78. I remember the exact price because I'd saved every penny from babysitting jobs to buy it myself. Nobody offered to help. Even our bedrooms told the whole story. Emma had the corner bedroom with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking our garden. White furniture that looked like it came straight from a home decor magazine. Fairy lights strung across her ceiling. A walk-in closet. My room was at the end of the hallway, next to the linen closet. I had furniture handed down from our grandmother's estate. Mismatched pieces that didn't quite fit. A single window that looked out at the neighbor's fence. I didn't hate Emma for any of it. How could I? She was just a kid benefiting from a system she hadn't created. But late at night, staring at my ceiling, I'd wonder what I'd done wrong. What fundamental flaw existed inside me that made my own parents look right through me like I was invisible. I had no idea then that this pattern would follow me all the way to her wedding day. That it would get so much worse before it got better. I met Ryan when I was 24, during my second year as an ER nurse at New Haven General Hospital. He was a medical equipment sales rep, charming, confident, the kind of man who made you feel like you were the only woman in the world when he looked at you. We got married a year later. My parents came to the wedding, but they spent most of the reception talking about Emma's new position at a prestigious marketing firm in Manhattan. "She's really going places," my mother kept telling anyone who would listen. "Both my girls are doing well, of course, but Emma, she's something truly special." At my own wedding reception. Those words still sting. The marriage fell apart faster than I could have imagined. Ryan had this gift for making me feel small. He questioned every choice I made. Criticized how I dressed, how I wore my makeup, how I spent money. He slowly isolated me from my friends, telling me they were bad influences or that they didn't really care about me. By the time I discovered he was having an affair with someone from his company, I was 7 months pregnant and had lost most of my sense of self-worth. The divorce was finalized when Lucas was 14 months old. I was 27, alone, working overnight shifts while my baby slept at a 24-hour daycare that charged by the hour. My savings account was always hovering near zero. My mother's response when I told her about the divorce? She sighed. A long, disappointed sigh. "I always worried you didn't know how to keep a man satisfied, Sarah. Emma would never let something like this happen to her." My father said nothing at all. He never did. Emma texted me exactly once during that entire nightmare. "That sucks lol, but honestly you always pick losers. Maybe get therapy?" No offer to help with Lucas. No checking in to see if I was okay. No acknowledgement that I was barely surviving. I didn't need their pity, I told myself every single night as I heated up instant ramen after 12-hour shifts. Lucas asleep in his crib in our tiny one-bedroom apartment. I just needed them to stop treating my pain like a joke. Like entertainment. Then, 2 years before the wedding, Emma met someone. His name was Marcus Reed, and he was different from anyone she'd ever dated. She met him at a charity event, some upscale gala benefiting children's literacy programs. He was a family law attorney, the kind who took cases pro bono for families who couldn't afford legal representation. Handsome in this quiet, thoughtful way. Kind eyes. He actually listened when people talked instead of just waiting for his turn to speak. The first time I met Marcus was at a family dinner at my parents' house. Emma had been dating him for 3 months and wanted to show him off to everyone. He shook my hand, then noticed Lucas hiding behind my legs. Without hesitation, he crouched down to Lucas's eye level. "Hey there, buddy," he said gently. "I really like your superhero shirt. Is that Spider-Man?" Lucas's whole face lit up. Nobody in my family ever paid him that kind of attention. They barely acknowledged he existed. Throughout dinner, I caught Marcus watching our family dynamics with this lawyer's observant eye. The way my mother redirected every single conversation back to Emma. The way my father laughed at Emma's stories but barely reacted to mine. The way I automatically got up to clear dishes while Emma stayed seated, scrolling through her phone. Later, as I was packing up to leave, Marcus appeared beside my car. "Does your family always treat you like that?" he asked quietly. I nearly dropped Lucas's backpack. "Like what?" "Like you don't exist." I forced out a laugh, trying to brush it off. "That's just how we are. Emma's the star. I'm just background noise." He didn't laugh. Something unreadable crossed his face. "You're a really good mother," he said. "Lucas is lucky to have you." Then he walked back inside. I didn't understand why those simple words made my eyes burn with tears. Or why, for weeks afterward, I kept replaying that brief conversation over and over in my head, wondering what he'd really meant. The wedding invitation arrived in this ridiculously expensive cream-colored envelope with gold lettering so thick you could barely fold it. It felt more like a royal decree than a wedding invitation. "Emma Rose Mitchell and Marcus James Reed request the pleasure of your company." The venue was the Plaza, a 5-star luxury hotel in Manhattan with a ballroom that had hosted celebrities, politicians, and actual royalty. 200 guests. The estimated budget? Over $200,000. My parents funded every single penny. For context, when I got married, my parents contributed exactly $3,000. And they complained about that expense for months. But this wedding came with rules. Emma called me 2 weeks beforehand. "Sarah, we need to discuss some things about the wedding." "Sure, what's up?" "First, please wear something very understated. Beige or cream only. I don't want anyone drawing attention away from me on my special day." I'd bought this beautiful emerald green dress on sale months ago, had been excited to wear it. "Okay. I can do that." "Second." She paused, and I could hear her taking a breath. "Does Lucas really have to come?" "He's 5. He'll probably cry and ruin the ceremony." My chest tightened. "Emma, I don't have anyone to watch him. His father isn't in the picture, and—" "Fine," she cut me off sharply. "But keep him absolutely silent. And you'll be seated at a table in the very back so you can take him outside quickly if he makes any noise at all." The morning of the wedding, my mother called me. "Sarah, I've spoken with the event coordinator. You and the child are at table 23 near the service entrance. Please don't make any sort of fuss about it. This is Emma's day, and we cannot have any distractions." Distractions. That's what my 5-year-old son was to them. A distraction. A problem to be hidden away. I should have seen it then. The careful planning. The deliberate positioning. The setup for what was coming. But I didn't. I just wanted to survive the day without incident. If you think you know where this story is going, trust me, you don't. What happened next at that wedding changed my entire life. Stay with me, because part 2 is where everything explodes. Don't go anywhere. The Plaza Ballroom was absolutely breathtaking. 20-foot ceilings covered in crystal chandeliers that must have cost a fortune. White roses everywhere, cascading from the ceiling, covering every table, creating these dramatic archways. A string quartet in the corner playing classical music. The kind of wedding you see in magazines. The kind that makes guests whisper about how perfect everything is. I wore the beige dress Emma demanded. Simple. Forgettable. Exactly what she wanted. Lucas looked adorable in his little navy suit and tie, his hair carefully combed, holding my hand tight as we walked into all that overwhelming luxury. "Mommy, it's so pretty," he whispered, his eyes huge as he took it all in. "It is, sweetheart. Let's find our table." Table 23 was exactly where my mother promised. Tucked in the far back corner, half hidden behind a decorative column, so close to the kitchen doors that I could hear the catering staff shouting orders back and forth. The noise was constant. The other people at our table were distant relatives I'd maybe met twice in my entire life. Nobody from my immediate family came over to say hello. Not once. I watched my parents make their grand entrance. My mother in this stunning champagne-colored designer gown. My father in a custom-tailored tuxedo. They worked that room like celebrities, hugging people, laughing loudly, accepting compliments about their beautiful daughter. Singular. One daughter. Emma arrived 30 minutes late in a Vera Wang wedding gown that probably cost more than I made in 6 months. She looked stunning. Radiant. Every inch the princess she'd always been groomed to be. Her eyes found me across that enormous room. She smiled, but there was nothing warm in it. It was the smile of someone who'd already won and wanted to make sure I knew it. On her way to the head table, she stopped by ours. "Sarah, you actually came." "Of course I came. You're my sister." She glanced down at Lucas, then back at me. "Just remember what I said about keeping him quiet." Then she was gone, swallowed up by a crowd of people wanting to congratulate her. The ceremony was beautiful in that expensive, perfect way. Emma cried these delicate, pretty tears as she exchanged vows with Marcus. My parents beamed from the front row. Guests dabbed at their eyes with fancy handkerchiefs. I sat in the back with Lucas on my lap, trying to feel something other than empty. During the cocktail hour, the photographers started gathering family for portraits. I stood up automatically, smoothing down my dress, when my mother appeared. "Just immediate family for this set, Sarah," she said with this tight smile. "I'm her sister. I'm immediate family. We're doing a smaller grouping first. You understand, don't you?" Oh, I understood. I always understood. Lucas tugged at my sleeve. "Mommy, why can't we be in the picture?" I pulled out my phone, fighting back tears. "We'll take our own pictures, baby. Smile for Mommy." I took a photo of him, trying to ignore the burning feeling behind my eyes. At the reception, I watched from our distant table as aunts, uncles, cousins I'd known my whole life approached the head table to congratulate Emma and Marcus. Not a single person stopped by to say hello to me. Not one. Then Aunt Caroline, my mother's sister, paused on her way to the bar. She looked genuinely uncomfortable when she saw me. "Sarah, oh my goodness. I almost didn't see you all the way back here." "The seating arrangement was very creative," I said, trying to keep my voice light. She glanced toward the head table, then back at me. Guilt flickered across her face. Helen has always had her favorites. "I'm so sorry, honey." Before I could respond, she hurried away. I noticed Marcus's friend setting up his phone on a small tripod near the edge of the dance floor, angled toward the stage. Probably live streaming for relatives who couldn't make it. I didn't think much about it at the time. I had no idea that phone would become the most important witness to what was about to happen. The sound of silverware clinking against crystal glasses echoed through the ballroom. Everyone went quiet. The MC stepped up to the microphone, this polished man in an expensive suit. "Ladies and gentlemen, the bride would like to say a few words." Applause rippled through the room as Emma rose from her seat, glowing under the spotlights. She took the microphone with this practiced confidence, her diamond bracelet catching the light. "Thank you all so much for being here," she began, her voice sweet as honey. "This is truly the happiest day of my life, and I'm so grateful to share it with everyone I love." She smiled at Marcus, who was watching her with this expression I couldn't quite read. "First, I want to thank my incredible parents. Mom, Dad, you've given me absolutely everything. Your love, your support, your unwavering belief in me. I am who I am because of you." My mother pressed her hand to her heart, tears already forming. My father nodded proudly. "And I want to talk about family," Emma continued, her tone shifting slightly. "About what family really means. About the lessons I've learned from watching people around me." Her eyes swept across the room and landed directly on me. The warmth in her expression disappeared. "Especially from my sister." Lucas perked up beside me. "Mommy, Aunt Emma is talking about you." "I know, baby." "Shoo." But something in Emma's smile made my blood run cold. It wasn't affection. It wasn't gratitude. It was anticipation. Like she'd been waiting for this moment. "Sarah, could you stand up please?" Emma called out, her amplified voice bouncing off those high ceilings. "I want everyone to see you." 200 faces turned toward our corner table. My legs felt like concrete, but somehow I stood. Lucas looked up at me, confused. "There she is," Emma said, her smile widening. "My big sister. The one who taught me so many valuable lessons about life." A few guests shifted uncomfortably in their seats. "See, my sister Sarah is a single mother," Emma announced, letting the words hang in the air. Scattered nervous laughter from some guests. "She got married young, had a baby, and then, well, things didn't work out." Emma tilted her head with this mock sympathy. "Her husband left her. Walked right out." And now she's alone, raising a kid by herself. More laughter now, bolder. My sister is unwanted, Emma continued, her voice carrying perfectly to every corner of that massive ballroom. No man wants her anymore. I mean, can you really blame them? She comes with baggage now. A child, financial struggles, all that drama. The laughter grew louder. Some of Emma's college friends at a nearby table were giggling into their champagne glasses. I couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. Then, from the head table, my mother's voice rang out clear as a bell. She's damaged goods. The room absolutely erupted. 200 people laughing. My mother laughing. My father covering his mouth, but his shoulders shaking. I looked down at Lucas. His small face was crumpled with confusion, his eyes darting between me and the laughing crowd. Mommy! His voice was so tiny, so scared. Why is everyone laughing at you? I couldn't answer. My throat had completely closed. I felt like I was drowning. I could see notes in Emma's hand. Typed notes. Prepared. Rehearsed. This wasn't spontaneous. This was planned. Scripted. A coordinated attack disguised as a wedding speech. But you know what? Emma was saying, riding the wave of laughter. Sarah taught me the most valuable lesson of all. She showed me exactly what not to do with my life. So really, I should thank her for being such a perfect example of failure. She raised her champagne glass toward me. To Sarah, my cautionary tale. The guests raised their glasses. Some were still laughing. Others looked uncomfortable but stayed silent. And my 5-year-old son watched his mother become a punchline. Emma wasn't finished. She was on a roll now. You know, growing up, people always asked why Sarah and I were so different. She set down her champagne, pacing the stage like she was performing. Same parents, same house, same opportunities. But Emma succeeded, and Sarah, well. She gestured vaguely in my direction. I used to feel bad about it. Poor Sarah, always struggling. Poor Sarah, can't keep a man. Poor Sarah, stuck in that sad little apartment with her sad little life. My mother was nodding along, dabbing at her eyes. But they weren't tears of sympathy. They were tears of laughter. But then I realized, Emma continued, some people are just meant to be warnings, not examples. And my sister? She's the best warning I could have asked for. Applause. Actual applause from the crowd. I felt Lucas's hand tighten around mine. His whole body was trembling. Mommy, I want to go, he whispered, his voice breaking. Please. I know, baby. I know. But my legs wouldn't cooperate. I was frozen, pinned under the weight of 200 judging stares, my mother's cruel laughter, my father's complicit silence. This was rock bottom, I thought. This was the absolute lowest point. I was wrong. Emma raised her glass again. Honestly, Mom's absolutely right. Sarah is damaged goods, a used product. But hey, she shrugged with theatrical innocence, at least she's here to witness how a real success story ends, right? The laughter swelled even louder. Then something changed. Movement from the head table. Marcus pushed back his chair, the sound cutting through the laughter. His jaw was tight. His eyes were fixed on Lucas, on my son's small, shaking form pressed against my side. For a second, I thought he was leaving. Walking out on his own wedding. Instead, he walked directly toward the stage. Toward Emma. Toward the microphone. The laughter faltered, then died completely. Nobody knew what was happening. Including me. Marcus is about to do something that will change everything. What happens next will shock you. Part 3 is coming, and trust me, you need to see this. Stay right here. Marcus moved with this quiet, determined purpose. His dress shoes clicked against the marble floor, the sound echoing in the sudden silence. The string quartet had stopped playing. Guests froze mid-sip, mid-laugh, mid-whisper. Emma's confident smile flickered. "Marcus, honey, what are you?" He didn't answer. Didn't even look at her. His eyes were locked on our table. On Lucas. My son had buried his face against my hip, his small shoulders shaking with silent sobs. He didn't understand why everyone was laughing at his mommy. He just knew it hurt. Marcus saw that. And something in his expression hardened into absolute steel. He reached the stage in 6 long strides. Emma was still holding the microphone, her smile frozen in confusion. "Marcus, sit down. I'm not finished with my..." He took the microphone from her hand. Not grabbed. Not snatched. Just calmly, firmly removed it from her grip like he was confiscating something dangerous from a child. "Marcus!" Emma's voice pitched high with alarm. "What are you doing?" The ballroom had gone completely silent. 200 people collectively holding their breath. I saw my mother half rise from her seat, her face cycling through confusion, anger, and something that looked like fear. Marcus raised the microphone to his lips. "I apologize for the interruption," he said, his voice steady and clear. "But there's something I need to say, and I need to say it right now." He turned to look at me. Really look at me. Not through me. Not past me. Directly at me with these eyes full of something I couldn't name. Then he turned back to face the crowd. "I've spent 2 years watching how this family treats Sarah Mitchell." His voice carried to every corner of that enormous room. 2 years of family dinners where she's ignored. 2 years of holidays where she's excluded. 2 years of watching her be treated as less than nothing by the people who are supposed to love her most. Emma grabbed at his arm. "Marcus, stop. You're embarrassing me." He stepped away from her touch. "No, Emma. You did that yourself." The silence was deafening. "I'm a family law attorney," Marcus continued, his voice getting stronger. "I've dedicated my entire career to protecting children from family trauma. From environments that damage them. From adults who should absolutely know better." He pointed toward our table. Toward Lucas, still pressed against my leg, still trembling. "That little boy is 5 years old. 5. And you just made him watch 200 adults laugh at his mother. You called her unwanted. You called her damaged goods. You called her a used product." His voice cracked with barely contained fury. In front of her child. The silence was so complete you could hear people breathing. "I've spent my whole life fighting against exactly this kind of cruelty," Marcus said. "And I cannot, become part of a family that inflicts it." He turned to Emma. She was frozen, her perfect makeup suddenly looking garish under the harsh lights. Her carefully constructed facade crumbling in real time. "Marcus, please," she whispered, but the microphone caught every word. "You're overreacting. It was just a joke. Just family teasing." "A joke?" His laugh was hollow and bitter. "You planned this, Emma. You rehearsed this. You turned your own sister's pain into entertainment for 200 people. That's not a joke. That's cruelty." He stepped back from her, creating this visible chasm between them. "I can't marry you, Emma. I won't." The collective gasp from 200 guests was audible, like a wave crashing. "And one more thing," Marcus's eyes found the phone still recording on its tripod. "My friend has been live-streaming this reception for family members on the West Coast who couldn't attend. About 60 people have witnessed exactly what kind of family I almost married into." He set the microphone down on the stage with a soft thud that somehow sounded final. I apologize for the disruption to your evening, he said to the stunned guests. The bar is still open. Please enjoy yourselves. Then he walked off that stage and everything exploded. Sarah! My mother was on her feet, her designer gown swirling around her ankles as she stormed toward our table. Her face was twisted with rage. Not at Emma. Not at herself. At me. What did you do? She hissed, jabbing a manicured finger in my direction. What did you say to Marcus? You ruined your sister's wedding. Mom, I didn't. You've always been jealous of her. My mother's voice rose to a shriek that silenced the tentative murmurs rippling through the crowd. You couldn't stand to see her happy, could you? You had to poison Marcus against her. Emma had collapsed into her chair at the head table, mascara tracking down her cheeks in black rivers. Her moment of triumph had shattered into a very public nightmare. My father appeared at my mother's side, his expression hard as stone. What did you tell him, Sarah? Behind our backs. What lies did you spread? I didn't tell him anything. I barely even spoke to him. Liar! Emma's voice cut through the ballroom like a knife. She was standing now, pointing at me with a shaking hand. You've been trying to turn him against me since day one. You couldn't let me have one thing, could you? One perfect day. I felt the narrative shifting in real time. The guests who'd been laughing at me minutes ago were now looking at me differently. Not with sympathy. With suspicion. She must have done something. Maybe the sister provoked this somehow. Poor Emma, her own sister. I saw it happening right before my eyes. The rewriting of history. In a matter of minutes, I'd transformed from victim to villain in the minds of 200 witnesses. And I realized if I didn't leave right that second, this would become my legacy forever. The jealous sister who destroyed her sibling's wedding. I looked down at Lucas. His face was red and blotchy from crying. His small hands were balled into fists against his chest. He was trying so hard to be brave, to understand why the world had suddenly become so loud and angry and scary. And in that moment, something shifted inside me. For 32 years, I'd been the one who stayed quiet. The one who kept the peace. The one who absorbed every slight, every insult, every moment of being overlooked, because fighting back wasn't worth the drama. But this wasn't about me anymore. This was about my son watching his mother be torn apart and doing nothing to stop it. I stood up. Not dramatically. Not defiantly. Just stood. Smoothed down my beige dress. Lifted Lucas into my arms. I didn't say anything to Marcus, I said, my voice calm and clear and steady. I didn't need to. He has eyes. He's watched you treat me like garbage for 2 years, and tonight he finally decided he couldn't live with it. My mother's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. You're lying. Emma spat. You've always been jealous, Sarah. Since we were kids. You can't stand that I'm better than you. I didn't argue. Didn't defend myself. What was the point? Instead, I turned and began walking toward the exit. Behind me, I heard my mother's voice, shrill with desperation. Sarah, you come back here and apologize to your sister right now. I didn't turn around. Lucas wrapped his arms tight around my neck, his wet cheek pressed against mine. Mommy, he whispered. Are we going home? Yes, baby. Good. A pause. I don't like it here. I know, sweetheart. Neither do I. I kissed his forehead as the ballroom doors loomed ahead. The walk from table 23 to those doors was maybe 40 feet. It felt like 40 miles. I kept my back straight, my steps measured and deliberate. Lucas clung to me, his face hidden against my shoulder. Around us, 200 guests sat in stunned silence, watching this drama unfold like some live theater performance they hadn't bought tickets for. I saw Marcus standing near the doorway. He wasn't running away. He was waiting. When I reached him, he stepped forward, blocking my path just long enough to speak quietly. "Sarah." His voice was meant only for me. "I'm so sorry. I should have said something years ago. I should have." "Don't apologize." I shifted Lucas on my hip. "You just saved my son from watching his mother be humiliated without anyone caring. That's more than anyone in my own family has ever done." He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a business card. Simple white cardstock with professional black text. Marcus Reed, attorney at law, family and children's rights. If you ever need anything, legal help, a reference, anything at all, call me. Pro bono. I mean it. I took the card and tucked it into my purse. "Thank you." For Lucas. Behind us, I could hear Emma's voice rising in hysterics. My mother trying to calm her. My father issuing terse commands to the bewildered wedding planner. I didn't look back. I pushed through those ornate doors into the hotel corridor, my heels clicking on the marble floor. Lucas lifted his head as the noise of the ballroom faded behind us. "Mommy, are you sad?" I thought about the question. Really thought about it. "No, baby. I'm not sad." For the first time in a very long time, I wasn't lying. "How about some pancakes when we get home?" His face lit up. "With chocolate chips?" "All the chocolate chips you want, sweetheart." "You think that's the end?" "Oh no. The real story is just beginning." Part 4 reveals what happened after we left, and trust me, you won't believe how this family responded. Keep watching. By the time I got Lucas bathed, fed, and tucked into bed with his favorite stuffed dinosaur, my phone had accumulated 53 missed calls. 36 from my mother. 14 from Emma. 3 from my father. I scrolled through the text messages while sitting on the edge of my bed, still in my beige dress, still wearing the makeup I'd so carefully applied that morning for a wedding that had become a nightmare. "Mom, 10:52 p.m., you ruined everything. Call me immediately." "Mom, 11:08 p.m., Emma is absolutely hysterical. Marcus left the venue. This is completely your fault." "Mom, 11:34 p.m., don't you dare ignore me, Sarah Elizabeth Mitchell." "Emma, 11:41 p.m., I will never forgive you for this. Never. You destroyed my entire life." "Dad, 12:02 a.m., your mother is very upset. You need to call her." I set the phone face down on my nightstand. Took a deep breath. Then I saw a message from an unexpected number. "Aunt Caroline, 12:18 a.m., Sarah, honey, I watched the live stream recording. I am so sorry. I had no idea Helen and Emma were capable of something like this. I'm ashamed of my own sister right now. Please know that you didn't do anything wrong. I'm here if you need to talk." I read it twice. Then a third time. It was the first acknowledgement from anyone in my family, extended or otherwise, that what happened to me was wrong. Not my fault. Not something I provoked or deserved. Just wrong. The tears I'd held back all night finally came. Quiet tears, the kind you cry when you're relieved and heartbroken at the same time. Someone had seen me. Really seen me. And that single text meant more than 32 years of hoping my own mother would. The screenshots arrived at 9:03 the next morning. Jessica, my best friend since nursing school, had texted me at 4 a.m., "Don't read anything until you call me first. Seriously. I have something you need to see." By the time I woke up, Lucas happily watching cartoons in the living room, there were 23 images waiting in my messages. Jessica had prefaced them with, "A mutual friend's cousin is dating one of your relatives." She saw the family group chat. Sarah, they planned this. All of it. I opened the first screenshot with shaking hands. It was a group chat titled Mitchell Family, No Sarah. A chat I'd been removed from 8 months earlier after asking why I wasn't invited to Thanksgiving dinner. The messages were dated 3 weeks before the wedding. Emma, I've been working on my speech. I'm going to call her out in front of everyone. Make her see what a complete disappointment she is. Mom, just don't go too far, sweetie. We don't want people thinking we're cruel. Emma, Mom, she deserves it. She shows up with that kid like she's not ashamed of her pathetic life choices. Someone needs to put her in her place. Mom, you're absolutely right. She's always been such an embarrassment to this family. Just make it funny. People love a good roast. Dad, just don't mention me in it. Emma, trust me, she won't say anything back. She never does. I stared at the screen until the words blurred together. They had planned it. Orchestrated it. My mother had helped write the speech that called me damaged goods in front of 200 people. And my father, my quiet, passive father, had known and said nothing. Jessica's final message read, I'm so sorry, Sarah. But you needed to know. It wasn't spontaneous. It was a coordinated attack. She was right. I did need to know. Because now I understood there was absolutely nothing left to save. I sat with those screenshots for a long time. Lucas had fallen asleep on the couch, worn out from the chaos of the night before. His small chest rising and falling in peaceful rhythm. I watched him sleep and felt something settle inside me. Something clear and cold and final. For 32 years, I'd been chasing something that didn't exist. My mother's approval. My father's attention. My sister's respect. I had bent myself into impossible shapes trying to earn love that was never going to come. I had accepted crumbs and called them enough. I had let them treat me like a placeholder, a supporting character in my own life story. And for what? So they could plan my public humiliation as entertainment? I opened a new document on my phone. Typed 2 words. No contact. That was it. No dramatic confrontation. No tearful phone call demanding explanations. No attempt to make them understand the depth of their betrayal. Just nothing. I would stop calling. Stop showing up to family events where I was only invited to be ignored. Stop hoping that someday, somehow, they would look at me and see someone worth loving. I wasn't going to announce it. Wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of a scene they could spin into more evidence of my instability or jealousy. I would simply disappear from their lives the way they'd always wanted me to. Quietly. Completely. Permanently. My phone buzzed with another call from my mother. I declined it and blocked the number. Then Emma's. Blocked. Then my father's. Blocked. I looked at Lucas, still sleeping peacefully, and felt something unfamiliar loosen in my chest. Not anger. Not grief. Relief. We're going to be okay, baby, I whispered to him. I promise. They showed up 4 days later. I was just getting home from work, Lucas chattering happily about the science experiment he'd done at daycare, when I saw them standing on the steps of my apartment building. My mother in a designer cashmere coat. My father in his usual expensive golf attire. Both looking like they'd taken a wrong turn into the wrong neighborhood. Sarah. My mother's voice was ice. We need to talk. Lucas's grip tightened on my hand. Mommy, why is Grandma here? I don't know, sweetheart. Go wait inside with Mrs. Chen, okay? I'll be right there. My elderly neighbor had already appeared in her doorway, drawn by the tension. She gave me a knowing look and held out her hand to Lucas. Come on, honey. I just made cookies. Once he was safely inside, I turned to face my parents. You blocked our numbers, my mother said, her voice trembling with outrage. After what you did to your sister, you blocked us? After what I did? You poisoned Marcus against Emma. You destroyed her wedding. Do you have any idea how much money you've cost this family? The venue is demanding full payment. The caterers won't refund anything. I actually laughed. I couldn't help it. A sharp, bitter sound that made my mother flinch. I didn't do anything, Mom. Emma stood up and called me unwanted in front of 200 people. You called me damaged goods. Marcus made his own decision based on what he witnessed. It was a joke. My mother threw her hands up. A harmless joke that you. In front of my 5-year-old son. My voice dropped to a dangerous calm. You humiliated me in front of Lucas. He asked me why everyone was laughing at his mommy. For the first time, something flickered in my mother's eyes. Something almost like guilt. But it vanished as quickly as it came. Emma is devastated, my mother pressed on, her voice softening into what she probably thought was maternal concern. Marcus won't return her calls. The wedding photos are ruined. She's talking about needing therapy, Sarah. Therapy? My baby girl. Then therapy might be exactly what she needs. My mother's face turned red. How dare you? Mom. I held up my hand. I'm going to say this once, and then I want you to leave. She fell silent, shock flickering across her features. In 32 years, I had never interrupted her. I didn't poison Marcus against Emma. I barely spoke to him. He made his choice because he watched how this family treats me, how you treat me, and decided he couldn't be part of it. That's not. I'm not finished. The words came out steady and unflinching. You planned that speech. I've seen the group chat screenshots. You helped Emma decide exactly what to say. You knew she was going to humiliate me, and you encouraged it. My mother went pale. My father shifted uncomfortably, suddenly fascinated by a crack in the sidewalk. Emma is crying, I continued. Good. Maybe now she'll understand what it feels like. I've been crying since I was 12 years old, trying to figure out why my own mother looked at me like a disappointment. Sarah, that's not fair. You called me damaged goods, Mom. In front of my child. In front of 200 people. And you're standing here asking me to apologize? The silence stretched between us like a chasm. I love you, I said quietly. I've spent my whole life loving you and hoping you'd love me back. But I can't do this anymore. I won't raise Lucas in an environment where he learns that abuse is acceptable if it comes from family. I stepped toward my door. Please leave. Tell me in the comments if you've ever had to set a boundary with someone you loved, even when it broke your heart. Because what I'm about to tell you next proves something important. Sometimes walking away is the most powerful thing you can do. My mother's face cycled through a dozen emotions in 3 seconds: disbelief, rage, hurt, calculation, before landing on her weapon of choice. Tears. Sarah. Her voice cracked. You're going to regret this. When I'm gone someday, you'll wish you'd been a better daughter. The guilt trip. Classic Helen Mitchell manipulation. A year ago, it would have worked. 6 months ago, it would have made me apologize. Even a week ago, I might have hesitated. But that was before she'd laughed at her own daughter being called worthless. Before she'd added her own knife to the wound. Before I'd watched my son's face crumble as his grandmother made his mother into a punchline. Maybe, I said. Or maybe I'll look back and know that I protected my child from the same damage you did to me. The door to Mrs. Chen's apartment opened. Lucas peeked out, cookie crumbs on his chin. Mommy, are you coming? I smiled at him. A real smile, warm and sure. Yes, baby. 1 minute. My mother lunged toward him, arms outstretched. Lucas, sweetheart, come give Grandma a hug. I stepped between them. Not aggressively, but firmly. No. The word hung in the air like a slap. He's my grandson. And he's my son. And I decide who gets access to him. My father finally spoke, his voice gruff with discomfort. Sarah, your mother is upset. Let's all just calm down and... Goodbye, Dad. I took Lucas's hand and guided him toward our apartment door. At the threshold, I turned back one last time. My mother was crying. Real tears now, or close enough. My father stood helplessly beside her. I'm not doing this to punish you, I said. I'm doing this because I finally understand that I deserve better than what you've given me. Then I closed the door and locked it. And for the first time in my life, I felt free. The story doesn't end there. In fact, what happens next is even more powerful. Part 5 shows you what life looks like when you finally choose yourself. You won't want to miss this final chapter. Worn out from the chaos of the night before. His small chest rising and falling in peaceful rhythm. I watched him sleep and felt something settle inside me. Something clear and cold and final. For 32 years, I'd been chasing something that didn't exist. My mother's approval. My father's attention. My sister's respect. I had bent myself into impossible shapes trying to earn love that was never going to come. I had accepted crumbs and called them enough. I had let them treat me like a placeholder, a supporting character in my own life story. And for what? So they could plan my public humiliation as entertainment? I opened a new document on my phone. Typed 2 words. No contact. That was it. No dramatic confrontation. No tearful phone call demanding explanations. No attempt to make them understand the depth of their betrayal. Just nothing. I would stop calling. Stop showing up to family events where I was only invited to be ignored. Stop hoping that someday, somehow, they would look at me and see someone worth loving. I wasn't going to announce it. Wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of a scene they could spin into more evidence of my instability or jealousy. I would simply disappear from their lives the way they'd always wanted me to. Quietly. Completely. Permanently. My phone buzzed with another call from my mother. I declined it and blocked the number. Then Emma's. Blocked. Then my father's. Blocked. I looked at Lucas, still sleeping peacefully, and felt something unfamiliar loosen in my chest. Not anger. Not grief. Relief. We're going to be okay, baby, I whispered to him. I promise. They showed up 4 days later. I was just getting home from work, Lucas chattering happily about the science experiment he'd done at daycare, when I saw them standing on the steps of my apartment building. My mother in a designer cashmere coat. My father in his usual expensive golf attire. Both looking like they'd taken a wrong turn into the wrong neighborhood. Sarah. My mother's voice was ice. We need to talk. Lucas's grip tightened on my hand. Mommy, why is Grandma here? I don't know, sweetheart. Go wait inside with Mrs. Chin, okay? I'll be right there. My elderly neighbor had already appeared in her doorway, drawn by the tension. She gave me a knowing look and held out her hand to Lucas. Come on, honey. I just made cookies. Once he was safely inside, I turned to face my parents. You blocked our numbers, my mother said, her voice trembling with outrage. After what you did to your sister, you blocked us? After what I did? You poisoned Marcus against Emma. You destroyed her wedding. Do you have any idea how much money you've cost this family? The venue is demanding full payment. The caterers won't refund anything. I actually laughed. I couldn't help it. A sharp, bitter sound that made my mother flinch. I didn't do anything, Mom. Emma stood up and called me unwanted in front of 200 people. You called me damaged goods. Marcus made his own decision based on what he witnessed. It was a joke. My mother threw her hands up. A harmless joke that you. In front of my 5-year-old son. My voice dropped to a dangerous calm. You humiliated me in front of Lucas. He asked me why everyone was laughing at his mommy. For the first time, something flickered in my mother's eyes. Something almost like guilt. But it vanished as quickly as it came. Emma is devastated, my mother pressed on, her voice softening into what she probably thought was maternal concern. Marcus won't return her calls. The wedding photos are ruined. She's talking about needing therapy, Sarah. Therapy? My baby girl. Then therapy might be exactly what she needs. My mother's face turned red. How dare you? Mom. I held up my hand. I'm going to say this once, and then I want you to leave. She fell silent, shock flickering across her features. In 32 years, I had never interrupted her. I didn't poison Marcus against Emma. I barely spoke to him. He made his choice because he watched how this family treats me, how you treat me, and decided he couldn't be part of it. That's not. I'm not finished. The words came out steady and unflinching. You planned that speech. I've seen the group chat screenshots. You helped Emma decide exactly what to say. You knew she was going to humiliate me, and you encouraged it. My mother went pale. My father shifted uncomfortably, suddenly fascinated by a crack in the sidewalk. Emma is crying, I continued. Good. Maybe now she'll understand what it feels like. I've been crying since I was 12 years old, trying to figure out why my own mother looked at me like a disappointment. Sarah, that's not fair. You called me damaged goods, Mom. In front of my child. In front of 200 people. And you're standing here asking me to apologize? The silence stretched between us like a chasm. I love you, I said quietly. I've spent my whole life loving you and hoping you'd love me back. But I can't do this anymore. I won't raise Lucas in an environment where he learns that abuse is acceptable if it comes from family. I stepped toward my door. Please leave. Tell me in the comments if you've ever had to set a boundary with someone you loved, even when it broke your heart. Because what I'm about to tell you next proves something important. Sometimes walking away is the most powerful thing you can do. My mother's face cycled through a dozen emotions in 3 seconds: disbelief, rage, hurt, calculation, before landing on her weapon of choice. Tears. Sarah. Her voice cracked. You're going to regret this. When I'm gone someday, you'll wish you'd been a better daughter. The guilt trip. Classic Helen Mitchell manipulation. A year ago, it would have worked. 6 months ago, it would have made me apologize. Even a week ago, I might have hesitated. But that was before she'd laughed at her own daughter being called worthless. Before she'd added her own knife to the wound. Before I'd watched my son's face crumble as his grandmother made his mother into a punchline. Maybe, I said. Or maybe I'll look back and know that I protected my child from the same damage you did to me. The door to Mrs. Chen's apartment opened. Lucas peeked out, cookie crumbs on his chin. Mommy, are you coming? I smiled at him. A real smile, warm and sure. Yes, baby. 1 minute. My mother lunged toward him, arms outstretched. Lucas, sweetheart, come give Grandma a hug. I stepped between them. Not aggressively, but firmly. No. The word hung in the air like a slap. He's my grandson. And he's my son. And I decide who gets access to him. My father finally spoke, his voice gruff with discomfort. Sarah, your mother is upset. Let's all just calm down and... Goodbye, Dad. I took Lucas's hand and guided him toward our apartment door. At the threshold, I turned back one last time. My mother was crying. Real tears now, or close enough. My father stood helplessly beside her. I'm not doing this to punish you, I said. I'm doing this because I finally understand that I deserve better than what you've given me. Then I closed the door and locked it. And for the first time in my life, I felt free. The story doesn't end there. In fact, what happens next is even more powerful. Part 5 shows you what life looks like when you finally choose yourself. You won't want to miss this final chapter. The videos spread faster than my mother could ever contain it. Within a week, it had made the rounds through the entire extended Mitchell family. Cousins, aunts, uncles, second cousins I'd never even met, all passing it along like evidence in a trial. Aunt Caroline called me on a Tuesday evening. Sarah, I just got off the phone with your Uncle Robert in Oregon. He saw the live stream recording. He used words I won't repeat about your mother and Emma. I didn't ask anyone to share it. You didn't have to. The friend who was streaming sent it to his mother, who sent it to her book club, who sent it to everyone else. Honey, you know how family gossip works. I did. It was the same network that had spread rumors about my divorce, my failure to keep a husband, my status as the family disappointment. Now that network was working in my favor. Your mother tried to call me yesterday, Aunt Caroline continued. Wanted me to help manage the narrative. I told her the narrative managed itself the moment she opened her mouth in front of 200 witnesses and a camera. Despite everything, I felt a small spark of satisfaction. How's Emma? Aunt Caroline hesitated. Not good. Marcus officially ended things. His family sent back all the engagement gifts with a letter from their lawyer. Something about irreconcilable value differences. Professional courtesy wrapped around devastating rejection. And your mother? Aunt Caroline sighed deeply. She's been calling everyone, trying to explain that it was just a joke that got out of hand. But people saw the video, Sarah. They heard her. No amount of spin can change what they witnessed with their own eyes. I thought about my mother, desperately dialing relatives, trying to rebuild a reputation she'd destroyed in 30 seconds of gleeful cruelty. Let her spin, I said quietly. I'm done explaining myself to people who don't want to understand. Emma tried her own damage control 2 weeks after the wedding. She posted this lengthy statement on social media, carefully worded, professionally crafted, probably reviewed by a PR consultant friend. I want to address the misunderstanding at my wedding. What was intended as light-hearted family humor was taken out of context by those who don't understand our dynamic. My sister Sarah and I have always had a playful relationship, and I'm heartbroken that a private family moment was twisted into something malicious by outside parties with their own agendas. It continued for 6 paragraphs. Never once apologizing. Never once acknowledging what she'd actually said. The comment section became an absolute battlefield. Emma, I've seen the video. There was nothing playful about it. You literally called your sister unwanted and your mom called her damaged goods. How is that a misunderstanding? The video is still out there. We can all see exactly what happened. Own your mistake. Girl, this ain't it. This is gaslighting at its finest. Jessica sent me screenshots of the meltdown, though I'd already muted everything related to my family. She's getting destroyed, Jessica texted. Her coworkers are asking questions. Someone said her boss called a meeting about maintaining professional conduct outside the workplace. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel vindicated. Mostly, I just felt tired. A few days later, I heard through Aunt Caroline that Marcus's mother had called my mother directly. She'd said, and I'm quoting here, "I didn't raise my son to marry into a family of bullies. You should be deeply ashamed of yourselves." Mrs. Reed, a retired family court judge, had seen enough dysfunction in her career to recognize it instantly. Emma had lost her fiancé. Her reputation was crumbling. Her job was under scrutiny. And I hadn't done anything. I hadn't needed to. The truth had been enough. Marcus called me 3 weeks after the wedding. I almost didn't answer. The number wasn't saved in my phone, and I'd become wary of unfamiliar callers. But something made me pick up. "Sarah, it's Marcus Reed." I sat down on my couch, pulling a blanket over my legs. Lucas was asleep in the next room. The apartment was quiet. "Marcus, hi. I hope I'm not overstepping by calling. I wanted to apologize properly." "You already apologized at the hotel." "Not properly." He exhaled, and I heard exhaustion in his voice. "I watched your family treat you terribly for 2 years. 2 full years, Sarah. And I told myself it wasn't my place to say anything. That Emma would grow out of it. That they were just difficult. But I knew better. You didn't know how bad it was. I knew enough." His voice hardened with self-recrimination. "I'm a family law attorney. I've built my entire career on recognizing toxic family dynamics. And I stood by and let it happen because I was in love with someone who didn't deserve that love." I didn't know what to say to that. The rawness of his confession left me speechless. That night, he continued, when I saw Lucas's face. "God, Sarah. That little boy watching his mother be destroyed for entertainment. I couldn't stay silent anymore. You didn't just stay silent. You ended your own wedding. It was the right thing to do. The only thing." He paused. "I meant what I said about legal help. If you ever need assistance with custody issues, or if your family tries to harass you, anything, I will help. No strings. No charge." "Why?" "Because your son deserves to have someone in his corner. And so do you." I felt tears prick my eyes, but they weren't sad tears. "Thank you, Marcus. For everything." 6 months passed. Strange how life rebuilds itself when you remove the people who kept tearing it down. I received a promotion at work. Senior charge nurse, ER department. My supervisor called me into her office on a random Tuesday. "Sarah, your patient satisfaction scores are the highest in the entire unit. You're calm under pressure. You're compassionate. You're exactly the kind of leader we need here. Congratulations." I cried in the bathroom afterward. Happy tears, the kind that sneak up on you when you're finally starting to believe you might actually be worth something. Lucas started kindergarten in September. He made friends quickly, a chatty little boy named Oliver and a quiet girl named Sophie who shared his obsession with dinosaurs. His teacher sent home a note after the first month. "Lucas is an absolute joy to have in class. He's kind, curious, and always willing to help others. You're raising a wonderful young man." My apartment was still small. 1 bedroom, a tiny kitchenette, creaky radiators. But it was ours. I hung Lucas's artwork on every available wall. Crayon dinosaurs and finger-painted rainbows and a wobbly portrait labeled Mommy in purple marker. It looked like home. It felt like home. I started therapy. Once a week, 50 minutes, unpacking 32 years of being told I wasn't enough. Dr. Martinez, a soft-spoken woman with kind eyes, helped me understand that the problem had never been me. "You were the scapegoat in a family system that needed someone to blame," she explained during our 3rd session. "Your worth was never determined by their inability to see it." I also started dating again. Cautiously. Carefully. A paramedic from work asked me to coffee. Then dinner. Nothing serious yet, but the idea that someone might want to know me, the real me, felt absolutely revolutionary. For the first time in my life, I wasn't waiting for permission to be happy. I was just happy. The attempts at contact came in waves. First, a birthday card for Lucas. Arriving 2 weeks late, no return address, though I recognized my mother's handwriting. Inside was a $100 bill and a note to our grandson. "We miss you." I put the money in Lucas's college savings account and recycled the card. Then a text from an unknown number. "Emma, using a friend's phone. Sarah, we need to talk. I've been doing a lot of thinking. Call me." I didn't call. A few weeks later, a voicemail from my mother. Her voice pitched in that particular tone of wounded victimhood she'd perfected over decades. "Sarah, this has gone on long enough. Family is family. You can't just cut us out forever. I'm your mother. Don't I deserve a chance to explain?" I deleted it without finishing. The hardest one came from my father. He showed up at my workplace. Something he'd never done in the 8 years I'd been a nurse there. I found him waiting in the lobby, looking uncomfortable and out of place among the worried families and beeping equipment. "5 minutes," he said when I approached. "Please." We stepped outside into the gray November afternoon. "Your mother is struggling," he said. "She cries every day. Emma won't leave her room. The family Thanksgiving was..." He trailed off. "Was what, Dad?" "Empty." I waited. I know what happened wasn't right. The admission seemed to cost him something. "But Sarah, your mother loves you. In her own way. She doesn't know how to." "Dad," I cut him off gently but firmly. "I spent 32 years waiting for Mom to love me in a way that didn't hurt. I can't wait anymore. And I won't let Lucas grow up waiting too." He nodded slowly, something crumbling behind his eyes. "I understand," he said quietly. And for the first time, I believed he actually did. Today, as I'm telling you this story, it's been 8 months since my sister's wedding. I'm sitting in our little apartment. Lucas is asleep in the next room, his nightlight casting dinosaur shadows on the ceiling. Tomorrow is his 6th birthday. I've got a homemade cake in the fridge, chocolate with way too much frosting, just the way he likes it. And a second-hand bike waiting in my neighbor's storage unit, wrapped in a bow I tied 3 times to get right. I got my promotion. I'm seeing someone, David, the paramedic, who tells me I'm beautiful and means it in a way I've never heard before. I have friends who actually show up. A therapist who helps me unpack decades of damage. An aunt who calls every Sunday just to check in. And I have my son. Last week, Lucas brought home a picture from school. It was a family tree assignment. While most kids drew grandparents and cousins and sprawling networks of relatives, Lucas had drawn just 2 figures. A tall woman with brown hair. A small boy beside her, holding her hand. "That's our family, Mommy," he said proudly. "Just us." I hung it on the refrigerator right at eye level. My mother hasn't stopped trying to reach me. Neither has Emma. I get the occasional message through relatives. The rare handwritten letter that goes straight into the trash. I don't hate them. That's the strange part. I spent so long being angry about the favoritism, the cruelty, the 1,000 small cuts of growing up invisible. But somewhere along the way, the anger faded into something quieter. Not forgiveness. Not reconciliation. Just peace. I chose myself. I chose my son. And that choice, hard as it was, saved us both. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away. If you'd told me a year ago that I'd cut off my entire family, I would have laughed. Or cried. Probably both. I grew up believing that family was everything. That blood ties were unbreakable. That love meant enduring whatever treatment you received, because that's what daughters do. Good daughters. Loyal daughters. I was wrong. Family should be a safe place. A space where you're celebrated, not tolerated. Where your presence is welcomed, not weaponized. Where your children can grow up knowing they're enough exactly as they are. My family wasn't that. My family was a performance. And I was always cast as the understudy. Here's what I've learned: setting boundaries isn't selfish. It isn't cold. It isn't abandoning the people who hurt you. It's recognizing, finally, clearly, that you deserve better than what you've been given. You don't owe your loyalty to people who don't respect you. Not your mother. Not your father. Not your sister. Not anyone. I used to think staying quiet made me strong. That absorbing every insult, every comparison, every public humiliation somehow proved my worth. Look how much I can take. Look how resilient I am. But silence isn't strength. Not when it's born from fear. Not when it costs you your self-respect. Real strength is walking away. Real strength is choosing yourself. Real strength is looking your mother in the eye and saying, I deserve better than this. Lucas will grow up knowing that his worth isn't determined by how much criticism he can endure. He'll learn that boundaries aren't walls, they're doors you get to control. He'll understand that love doesn't look like public mockery or strategic cruelty or jokes designed to wound. That's my legacy. Not the Mitchell family name. Just a mother who chose her son and herself. For those wondering what happened to everyone else, here's what I know. Emma started therapy. Real therapy, according to Aunt Caroline. Working through issues that apparently run deeper than anyone realized. I don't know the details and I don't need to. I hope she finds whatever she's looking for. I hope she becomes someone capable of genuine kindness. But that's not my journey to witness. My mother continues to call me difficult and unforgiving to anyone who will listen. She's rewritten the narrative so thoroughly that some relatives believe the wedding incident was my fault. That I provoked Emma. That Marcus was always unstable. That the whole thing was blown out of proportion. I don't correct them. The people who matter know the truth. My father sent me a text a few weeks ago. Just 3 words, I'm sorry, Sarah. No explanation. No excuses. No request to reconcile. I read it. Sat with it for a long time. Then I put my phone down and went about my day. Maybe someday I'll respond. Maybe I won't. Healing isn't linear, and forgiveness isn't a requirement. Aunt Caroline has become the family I always needed. She drives down every other month to take Lucas to the Science Museum. She loads me up with containers of homemade soup. And she never once pressures me to give your mother another chance. Family is who shows up, she told me once over coffee in my cramped kitchen. Not who shares your last name. She was right. Marcus sent Lucas a dinosaur encyclopedia for his birthday. No note. No strings. Just a gift from someone who remembered a scared little boy and wanted to make him smile. Small kindnesses. They add up. They mean more than 200 laughing guests ever could. So that's my story. A wedding that became a funeral, not for a marriage, but for 32 years of trying to earn love that was never coming. A 5-year-old boy who taught his mother that some people are worth fighting for, and some aren't. A choice to walk away, not in defeat, but in victory. I'm not telling you this because I want pity. I stopped needing pity somewhere between the 53rd missed call and the first morning I woke up without dreading my phone. I'm telling you this because I know I'm not alone. Some of you have mothers who look through you. Sisters who compete instead of celebrate. Fathers who stay silent when they should speak up. Family gatherings that feel like walking through a minefield. Some of you have already walked away. Some of you are still trying to figure out how. And some of you are still hoping, like I did for so long, that if you just try harder, love better, make yourself smaller, eventually they'll see your worth. They won't. Not because you're not worthy. Because they can't. And that's not your failure to fix. Thank you for listening to my story. Tell me in the comments if you've ever had to set boundaries with someone you loved, even when it broke your heart. And if you've dealt with something similar, share your story. You're not alone. Subscribe for more stories about standing your ground and reclaiming your life. If it resonated with you, if you've ever had to choose yourself over family expectations, if you've ever wondered if you were strong enough to walk away, please hit that subscribe button. Drop a comment. Have you ever had to cut someone off for your own peace? I'd love to hear your stories too. You're not alone in this. None of us are.